Okay. Now that I think I've actually got it started in the right place, we might actually get the people who were wanting to watch this here. So tonight I am going to sew up a clear version of the cube, the Cool Cube. Hold on, I'll go grab one just to show. Okay, I think I may have lost everybody who was in the other. Hi, Chrissy. Looks like we're starting to get people coming in now that I've started it in the right location now. Let's see. All right. All right, we have 3 people. All right, so what we're working on tonight is a version of the clear cube. This one is a medium size. We are making the large size, or I am making the large size tonight. So this one is a little floppier than some of the others I've done. This is out of TPU. I actually prefer to use PVC for the cube because it gives it more structure. But either work. What's great about TPU, it can squish and then it kind of just recovers a lot more. So it does recover very well, but it is more malleable. So you will have more issues with turning with PVC, but it does give you more structure. Okay, so what I'm sewing tonight is from Backstitch. I have already prepared the front panel just to save us a little time. It is prepared the same exact way as if you were doing multiple don't need to hear myself in repeat, and y'all don't need to hear me echoing. We have attached our two sides on either side of the middle. This will be the front of your bag. And the same as you attach it, top stitch your seams down. Now with clear vinyl, I will use a lighter to burn my threads after I trim them, just to make sure there's no extra threads hanging around. So if you're following along and doing this with me, you should have your 6 pieces, your webbing, or vinyl for your handle, and your zipper tape. Now, I'm not going to give out measurements because, one, it depends on which size cube you're making, and it also, if you want the measurements, get the pattern. The biggest difference with clear vinyl is you have no lining. Now, I do not bind the clear cubes. You can, but I do something a little different, which I will show as we do it. Looks like we're trying to get a couple more. See if the person who was looking for it found it. Let's see. Okay, it looks like we've got a couple more people. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Anybody the video should be, hold on, let me respond to that person to let them know. And hi, Glenna. Let's see. I think that's right. All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start since it is 9 o'clock at night, or 9:15 now. This shouldn't take us, that's one good thing about doing the clear versus doing the regular cool cube. You're not doing the lining, you're not having all the extra interfacing, so you don't have as many steps. Like I said, for the first part, I've already done this part just to save us a little time. This is the front 3 panels when you have it divided. However, you can do a clear one that is all one piece for the front. However, I like with vinyl to make it where it has those nice corners, which happens when you have a seam. So, first things first. So we have our front panel. I'm going to attach the zipper to it. So I'm going to turn off the camera off of me and onto my sewing machine. I have my computer so I can see any comments or questions. So feel free to ask anything as I'm doing it if I'm not clear. Or anything else you want to ask. And for those of y'all who are on here live, I plan on trying to send the newest pattern to my testers in the next week. And hopefully it will be released in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And if y'all want the little preview, this is the new pattern. Alright, so we're going to get started. Alright. Hopefully y'all can see my machine well, and I won't be in the way. Alright, so the first thing we do is we are going to take your zipper tape, and you see I have my pulls on it. A lot of times I will take my pulls off when I attach them, but as I just like to move them out of the way so that way I don't forget to put my pulls on. So for this, what we're going to do, you'll have about a 1/2 inch overhang of your zipper tape at each end. From the beginning, you'll have about a 1/2 inch extra, and at the end, you'll have about a 1/2 inch extra. So what we'll do now, you can use double stick tape on the zipper tape to hold your vinyl in place. However, what I normally do is I will set it up on my machine, and you sew at, for my whole pattern, it is always a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you're going to follow it, like I said. If you don't like, you can clip it in place so it doesn't shift or anything like that. This is just how I do it. And you're holding it and you're moving them together. I have the right sides together. So I'm going to sew my vinyl to the zipper. Now, some vinyls like to move around a lot more, are stickier, and that's when I would definitely suggest putting your double stick tape down on your zipper tape to hold it in place. However, this is the PVC from Backstitch. It does not shift. Some bases shift more than others. Some stick to your beds of your machine more than others. PVC is thicker to go through. It is 20 gauge vinyl. So it's not always the most domestic friendly. However, TPU usually is very domestic friendly. So now I've gotten up to where my zipper pulls are, if you can see. So my zipper pulls are right at my thing. So what I do, I just lift up my presser foot, leaving the needle in, and I push my zipper pulls past my presser foot. That's usually what I do just to keep them in place. But they're out of my way and they're not going to be an issue now. And so make sure you put that presser foot or else you'll get that nice lovely loops from your bobbin underneath. Any questions so far? For stitch length, I usually use 3 on clear vinyl. Mainly being the, especially the PVC. With the TPU, which is a little bit thinner, sometimes you need to do a 4. But make sure it's at least a 3 for your vinyl, so it doesn't perforate and make holes. Now, otherwise, at your seams, you're just going to have it come apart. And I'll show a close-up of one of my seams of the front to show you how I've done the stitch length. Okay. I said before, I use a lighter to singe the ends of my threads, especially with clear vinyl, because all your extra threads are going to show because there's no lining to hide all those lovely thread tails. So now that we have that sewn, we are going to top stitch it. So what I do is I just fold it over on itself, and I will place that on the machine and top stitch it with a 1/8 inch top stitch. Any questions so far? I don't think. So if you have made the regular cube, you will see some differences from how I did the regular one versus how I did the clear. Like I said, you can finger press this beforehand, but I just usually take it and press it down as I go. As you see, I'm folding the zipper tape back underneath so that it's laying flat. So this is actually an order I'm doing for someone. So I still make a good number of these, both clear and regular. Especially when it comes to gamer type stuff. See, we're coming back to where my zipper pulls are back in the forefront again. So since I've already gone through over half, let's go ahead and pull those out of my way so they're not even a problem. My lighter is, it's actually a little, does a little electrical. I don't know if you can see it or not. Had a friend turn me onto that for singeing the threads. And it's rechargeable. And I just take my time when I'm doing my top stitching so that I don't get any skip stitches or anything like that. If you do get skip stitches, I'm not one of those. I'll go back and check, and then I'll fix it if need be. I've never really had a problem with skip stitches with the back stitch finals. So yet again, I am singeing my threads. And cutting off any extra. Now I will leave the zipper tape long, at least until I get the seams of the back done. And I do that so just to make sure that you have plenty to play with. I do like to trim it down on the clear. On a regular cube, I actually will leave that extra zipper tape in the seam. For the clear, once I have the seams at the back done, I will trim it down and then flame my zipper tape so it doesn't fray. I use Tex 45 from Wizardry for most of my bags. So I don't change it out for this. I sew on a semi-industrial. This is a Juki Haruka 18 QVP. So if y'all want to see, here are my top stitching. So your back would look, so not always completely perfect, but if you see, I was talking about how you can see in your seam, you don't want super small stitches. Otherwise, those seams are going to want to open because you're perforating the vinyl. So now that we have the complete front panel with zipper tape and everything done, we're going to make the body of the cube. So I always start on the right side of the cube. That's just a personal preference. You can do either. Now you have 3 other pieces. Your 3 other squares. 2 for your top and bottom should have rounded corners. And your center's already marked for them all the way around. Christina, any questions you have, that's completely fine. Now, you have your 3rd square that does not have rounded corners. You want the one that does not have a rounded corner, that is your back. So what we're going to do, lay them right sides together and match up, starting from the bottom up, because you're going to trim above the zipper tape with any extra you have. So I'm going to clip it in place. Now I do like to clip the vinyl because it will shift. Not so much with clear vinyl, it doesn't shift quite as much because since it is a stickier vinyl, it will stick to itself. But just in case, I don't like to bring disaster, so I will always clip it a little bit. So there is clipped. And so then we'll sew the 1/4 inch seam. If I need to slow down, just let me know. And of course, it's getting stuck. Because it's a longer piece, it's getting stuck. Bag making is lots of fun. I've been making bags now for about 5 years. Or maybe a little longer, at least 5 years. I've been sewing for about 14, 15. So, yet again, we are going to trim, flame the thread. And I do want to show you, this is something I go over in my pattern. You do have excess above the zipper tape. This is because I've given you an allowance, because not all zipper tapes are the same width. So after we sew our back completely, I will trim this excess off. So now that we have one side attached, I'm going to, as I said, trim my zipper tape off. Now that I have it in the seam, because I want it to be equal with my seam, I will flame it off. I'm actually going to grab my other lighter, my actual lighter. The zapper is great for threads, but for zipper tape, I actually prefer using a lighter. So I'll just flame it so it doesn't ravel. And just melt it a little. So, alright, so now that that is done, I'm going to top stitch. So, as you see, it gets to be a little bulky at times, especially when you're doing the regular size cube, not the medium or the small. My actual personal preference is the medium size cube. But so now we're going to fold that over and top stitch our vinyl to the seam. And you see I am kind of pressing it down as I go. There is no shame in going slow as you need to just to get everything where it needs to be. And you can hear my machine is going, that's a lot of layers. Granted, I have done this size a good bit, so I know my machine can handle it. But if you don't know that your machine can handle multiple layers of PVC, make sure you test it out before you do a whole cube and you get to the part that you get thick parts. Otherwise, you're going to cry when it's too thick and your machine doesn't like it. You can get the pattern. This is my Cool Cube pattern with the little bit of alteration for the clear cube. The pattern is at sewingturtleboutique.net. And you can buy just the regular Cool Cube pattern, or you can also buy the add-on, which has the medium and small size. So we have one completed side, and so now we get to do where we fold the whole thing over. And yet again, you're going to clip starting from the bottom. And if I ever end up out of the frame, I apologize. I'm trying my best to stay in frame. But as I said, clear light likes to stick together. Sometimes it likes to stick to each other in the wrong way. So that's why you're seeing me manhandle it a little before I clip it in place. So we have, as you see, we have a body of a cube. I'm getting ready to sew 1/4 inch seam allowance again. Oh, the Haruka machine is awesome. I've had this for about 3.5 years now. So we are going to sew yet again at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so getting everything lined up. Like I said, sometimes having the bigger cube likes to stick to everything. So as you see, I'm kind of folding it over so it's not hitting everything in their brother while I'm trying to sew. So I'm going to sew this at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And as you see, I am not the speediest sewer. There's times I am and there's times I'm not, but I usually take my time with this just to make sure I don't have skipped stitches and everything looks good. Okay. So now we are going to take this and top stitch this as well. Now, as you notice, we now have a cylinder, or the body of your cube, the main body part. So now this makes it a little more difficult to top stitch. Yet again, you want to fold over away from your zipper tape to top stitch. Yet again, I will trim out the zipper tape and flame it just to make sure it's even. And then so it doesn't ravel, I want to melt those ends. Good. So now, there are two ways you can do this. You can go and then pull it up as you go. So what I actually do when I do this top stitch, because you've got a big bulky thing now, I actually take it and I will open that up. And pull it in so that as I top stitch, I'm going to get where it is looser and looser. And I promise, to me, that makes it a little easier. So as you can see, this makes it a little more difficult to maneuver. And this is where using TPU over PVC comes in handy, because it folds a lot easier. Like I said, I have used both, and I will show you the difference once I'm done of the two. So we are going to top stitch. As I said, take it easy and kind of press your vinyl down to the side as you go. And that just kind of holds it in place a little better as you go. So, okay, so we now have a completed body of the cube. Okay, so all your parts, and so you have a little bit extra above your zipper tape, and we are going to trim that down now. Now I'm going to go run over to the my cutting table and just take my ruler and set it on there to trim it off. That's usually what I do, just so it's more precise and I don't accidentally cut my zipper tape. So we have the body of the cube. Alright, so this is the little bit of extra trimmed off. So not a huge amount, but just it's about 1/8 of an inch. Usually it can vary between 1/4 and 1/8 because sometimes you have 4.5 number 4.5 or 4 zipper tape, or you have 5. So the widths are slightly different. So that's the reason I do it this way. Alright, so the next thing you would need to do, you need to mark your centers on your body of your cube so that we can match up our top and bottom. So I will match up my back seams, and then I will mark my middle here and my middle on the zipper tape. And I just usually use a little Sharpie to mark it. And I will do the same thing on the bottom, and then I will match those centers and mark the side seams. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the centers real quick, and then we'll continue on. Any questions so far? And while I have y'all here, is there any type of pattern y'all would like to see me design in the near future? And really, when you fold in half, all your seams should equal up. The back seams are together, the front seams are together, so it should all line up. It is very important that you mark your centers, otherwise your top is gonna and bottom are not gonna be on correctly. So you need to make sure those centers are marked. You can ask me how I know. So even though this is my pattern, I don't always remember to do everything, and then I go, something's off. We are making the last center mark. Okay. Any questions before we go to the next part? I promise I'm not just sitting here. Alright, so the next thing we do is you will grab your body, leave it inside out. That will make it a lot easier. You're gonna grab, since I'm making it all out of the same vinyl, the top and bottom are pretty much identical. So just so you know, so this is my back. When you are putting your top on, if you want it to be equal, so when you look at it, it looks like this. I am not on YouTube. Not yet anyway. This video will be saved in the group. I promise it will be there, so you will be able to go back to it, just like the binding video I did in December. So you should be able to go and look in the videos or photos and find the video. You can also look in previous events, and it will be in the event page. I haven't braved going on YouTube yet. So here's your back. Whenever you are matching right sides together, I'm going to tell you, a big thing to make sure your things are right and they're facing the right direction is if you put them close together and you want it to be right side up when you fold it out. So they're going to be, you can mark this first part right here. They're going to be the same direction as your back, right sides together. So you're going to pin, clip. Now when I put my top on, or most of my bags, I actually will staple it at the marks I made. Now make sure when you do staple it, you staple it in the seam allowance so that it does not move. And so that it's not in your way while you are sewing. And then you hit it with your needle and you break a needle. Yet again, ask how I know. So I am pinning my, or in this case stapling my top. Now I always do the top first because I find, one, it's easier to maneuver the bottom, make it flat, and then once the top's done, you can completely unzip the top and you'll be able to maneuver the bottom just the same way. Is everybody following me so far right now? Now, when I do these lined, I do not always staple. A lot of times I will use just clips. I use both longer clips and I use both these clips and the little itty bitty clips, whichever is easier or in reach at the moment. Now, I apologize if you're on the East Coast with me. I know it's on the later time for doing this, but I am East Coast, so I have to wait till my daughters are in bed to do this kind of stuff. So you can staple it or clip it more than just what I did. But as long as those 4 are done, I will actually just take it and follow it along. If it wants to be more meddlesome, I'll go back and add another clip or staple. So I'm going to sew my 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. Now, when you're sewing with the zipper tape, my biggest thing, when I add the top on, I always start from the back where there is no zipper tape. And so you can start and stop where there is no zipper tape. And we are still kind of like when we attached your zipper and then top stitched the zipper, you're going to move your pulls out of the way as you get to them. So just kind of make sure they're not in this little first corner. I usually have them in the front part, so they're kind of centered so that I can move them out of the way as I get to them. Now, one of the biggest differences of the clear cube versus the line cube, I do not bind the clear cubes. And so as you see, I don't know if you can see, I will actually go slow, especially around these curves. and rotate my bag as I get there and push things down out of my way. Just leave my needle in and follow it along and push it down out of my way. And that's why I said, is why I only staple at those 4 points normally, because that gives me a little more bending room, is the best way to say it. And if you are not exactly out at your corners, if you have made the regular cube, you know that after we sew the top or bottom, we will trim around the corners to get any excess vinyl off. So don't let that throw you. I usually still have vinyl to trim away, or and that just, so we're going around. We're going around our first side. So like I said, just take your time. And I said, it is, when you're doing one of the larger ones, it is a little more fiddly. Which is why I think over time I have gotten where I like the medium ones the best. But there's nothing wrong with the large ones. I've made a bunch of the large ones. Or the original size, let's put it that way. But yeah, y'all can always suggest some things that, and I don't know if y'all have seen the next pattern to come after the Stow and Go tote is my Gamer's Night Out clutch. Let's see, I don't know where I put it. But it is a wallet that holds cards, has a zipper pocket, and a place for cash as well. And I need my little stiletto. And y'all can laugh, but my little stiletto is a pair of unicorn tweezers. So I will do that to keep things in place, just so I don't end up sewing my hand. Like I said, I find the top is the more difficult of the two, of the top or bottom, and so that sometimes will make you want to sew the bottom first. However, then you don't have all the malleability as you see that I have when I'm moving. You see I'm squishing it here and there. Let's see, as I'm moving it around. And I have my thread is shredding. Hold on. See, not everything goes perfect when you're sewing live. Of course, things want to go screwy. I apologize for my head being in the way, but me threading the machine is me having to have my face in front of it. So, alright, let's make sure how, yeah, that's gonna secure. Alright, it wasn't a problem yet, but if I didn't take care of it, I had noticed it was starting to shred, so we're just redoing it right there. It's not a big deal to just take your time. That's my biggest thing. People worry about how much time they take sewing, especially when you're first learning. You can be slower, and even being an experienced seamstress, I am a little bit slower than a lot of people. So now we have gotten to the zipper pulls again. So I've lifted my needle up, got to move my zipper pulls, and I've had people ask, why don't I unzip to attach it? It actually gives you better fitting, being able to have it zipped. It fits better, at least in my opinion. So yeah, I have a 6-year-old and a 15-year-old, and if I was doing this during daylight hours, my 6-year-old would try to help me do these tutorials, and that does not help at all. For those of you who have children, I'm sure you understand. Teenagers a little more understanding, but yeah, still, it's easier once they both are in bed to do this. Like I said, just take your time. This is the most difficult part as far as the getting around the zipper tape. With the binding, since we are not binding, we are skipping that part. That also comes into play when you're doing binding on the regular. And I did do binding on the tutorial back in December. And if y'all want, I can always do a tutorial for just basic sewing if y'all would want. Y'all just would have to let me know. I can give you some of my tips and tricks I've learned. Some by trial and error, and some the hard way, and some by sheer luck. Okay. Going around that last curve for the top. And I like the idea of the divider snack caddy that you're talking about, Kimberly. I have not done a tutorial for the sweet treat, mainly being that for the most part, the construction for the sweet treat is very similar to the Cool Cube. The biggest differences are the length and width, the fact, and how a few things are, especially if you do the clear vinyl top for the sweet treat. Now, I do bind the sweet treat top, even if it is done with clear vinyl, because I bind the bottom. And that's also because if you're carrying like casserole dishes or things like that, you want that binding for extra stability because it will be carrying more weight than something probably like this, mostly. So now that we have attached our top, I'm going to trim all these little errant threads and flame them. And of course we had that little snafu with our thread back down here, so I've got some more down at the other end. So I'm going to go around, and as I was saying, you will have some extra vinyl around the corners. I always have a little, doesn't matter. So if you see, there's a little bit of vinyl right here. I will just trim that up so it is even with my zipper tape. And I will do that for all 4 sides. And I see a snag. I'm going to go over this corner again. And this is why you go around and make sure you've got everything. So I found a little skipped area. Which happens from time to time. I think this was what was happening right before the thread was about to shred and I stopped, and so I caught it. So that's just to add strengthening to that corner. There's nothing wrong with it. I just wanted a little more stability there. Okay, so now we can test our thing, make sure everything's good. But if you did put staples, you just need to pull those out. Like I said, you don't have to put staples. That's just what I do. Just take my little needle nose pliers and pull them out. Of course, they want to be difficult to come out when I'm on live, instead of coming out like they normally do. That would be the easy way, right? So the way I test this, I will actually, I was saying that I like the idea for the snack idea, and I'll think about that. But so if you see, there's the inside all sewn. So we're going to unzip it, make sure everything looks good. Now, one thing you'll notice, and this is where the big difference comes in. When you're unzipping it, you'll notice that the zipper tape on the top that's next to the top of the cube is wanting to possibly get stuck in your place for your zipper tape. So it all unzipped good. So what we're going to do, we're going to actually top stitch it, that zipper tape, to the top. And this is so that it'll stay out of the track of the zipper, and you won't have any problems about it getting stuck or anything like that. I usually put the staples in about 1/8 of an inch, and I stitch 1/4 inch around. So we are going to start, and so what I do is I will fold it over. So I don't know if you can see. So we are going to fold it over. If you look at the thing, we are going to fold it over just kind of like when we did the zipper at the front. And I'm going to top stitch all the way around. Now when we get to the corners, you're going to fold it. So you're going to fold it down. And then when you get to the corner, you're going to fold it down again. So it will be a little thicker going around. And it will be kind of like a squared corner. And that'll keep it out of that seam allowance. And as you can see, I've got a little thread tail right there. Alright, so let's top stitch this baby. So I always find it easiest to start when I'm looking at it. So it is thicker here. You may not get as far back as you would want to get it to lay flat. But we are going to make it lay as flat as possible. And you will take your presser foot and go back as far as you can. It will not be all the way to the very back, but you're going to go back as far as possible. Now what you can do, and I have done, is I will start here, and because the hump of the back is in my way, I will go ahead and do my stitching starting here, and I will turn this around and stitch to that hump now that my foot is not in the way. Kind of my way of doing a reverse stitch here. And so I will reverse back, stitch back out, and I have that pretty top stitch that far back. So now we will go all the way around. So now, like I said, this is going to get bulky because this is a 8.5 inch cube. So as you see, I'm coming down to the corner. So as I said, I am making kind of like a square. Let's see if I can zoom in pretty good. So, and then I will take it down and hold it down out of my way. Make sure you're not sewing your actual zipper tape, you're top stitching the clear vinyl so that you won't have an issue about actually being able to zipper. Because as we all know, vinyl does not like to, it will leave holes, especially in clear vinyl, if you make mistakes. So, as I said, like when we top stitch the zipper initially to the body, I just kind of push it down and press and top stitch all the way around. And that will give us a much easier way of getting it open. You won't have the problem. And of course, this is the one I forgot to trim. See? So I will be trimming this corner while I have it under the machine. There we go, that's better. That makes it bulky when you're trying to fold that around that corner. So even though I've done this many times, both with the clear and the regular, I'm not foolproof. Okay. No, I first made the clear because I had somebody said, "Oh, can I make it clear?" And I said, "Well, we're going to test it." And then I've made a bunch more since. And I said, now, if you would want to use binding instead of this top stitching, you can do that as well. There's nothing wrong with binding on the clear cube. But as I said, when you put a hole in clear vinyl, it stays. So I just like to put less holes than I have to. So we're going to get to this back corner, and we are still going to go all the way around. So I'm folding that back corner in. And I will show the completed top stitch once I'm done as well. So we are going all the way around. I know there is no zipper tape here, but it kind of looks odd if you have stitching around 3 sides instead of 4. And actually, the back part's the easiest part to top stitch because you're not going around zipper tape. It's just 2 pieces of clear vinyl you're going through. And if you want, you can keep going from the beginning just to overlap just a little. Okay, so from the underside, you will see your stitching all the way through. Your top side is top stitched all the way through. I will show you how well that stitches, zips up in a minute. Okay. Make sure I have all my raw edges done. Alright, so you can turn it right side out just to make sure everything looks good. Now we'll say PVC definitely is harder to turn, but I still do this to test to make sure everything zips right and everything before I go on. Alright, so we are ready to put the bottom on, but just so you can see, it zips around those corners so beautifully, providing it's actually up. And we have a top. Now, I do not top stitch the bottom. Only the top gets top stitched because you're doing the top stitching to keep the zipper tape and clear vinyl that was part of the seam out of the zipper tape or the zipper track. So now we are ready. Before I do the bottom, I do my handle. So I will actually open this back up, turn it right side out, or inside out. So it's back right inside out. Now to put, so we have the cube. Now for this one I am using a matching webbing. You can use vinyl. You could make a clear vinyl strap, handle, not strap. So what you're going to do, now I have markings down here. And I'm going to find my center point of this top, and I will hold my webbing in place and then take it over to the machine to sew it on. So let's see. That's about centered right there. So I will take that over to just kind of slide it on my machine, and I do a 1-inch rectangle because this is 1.5-inch webbing, so it is a rectangle, not a square. But you can use 1-inch webbing. I've used both. This particular one is done with 1-inch webbing. Basically, you're sewing your webbing down and then doing the X across it to hold it in place well. And if you are newer to sewing, my biggest thing to say to you, always remember to back stitch so that your seams don't come undone. And as you see, I just want to show you. So when I'm doing this webbing, you see this is the body. This is the reason I do the webbing before I put the bottom on, because then I can flatten it. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're using webbing, if you're making it with vinyl, or if you, however you want to make your handle. This is a piece of webbing that matches the print. So I'm just taking and sewing, I usually actually mark on my webbing or my vinyl where my 1-inch mark is, and I kind of forgot. So that's why you see me get my ruler out. So, but make sure when you're doing this that you top stitch your zipper before you attach your webbing, because you want that stitching over top of your top stitching and not having to sew those top stitching stitches over top of webbing or vinyl, whichever you're using for your handle. And you're not required to do a handle. I just like how the handle looks, and it makes for ease of carrying or putting stuff. Especially if you have a little one who likes to steal. You could attach the handle before you attach the lid. However, especially with the clear one, you don't want to have to sew through all those layers trying to top stitch that zipper tape out of the way. I've had people who have done it and they put it into the seam, but that makes it really bulky. When you're doing the regular cube, it makes it, because you're doing binding, then you're sewing through either vinyl that you're using for the handle or the webbing, and you're just adding more bulk into your binding, and makes it where things don't like to lay flat. So that's why I do it after I've attached the top, if that makes sense. It's to cut down on layers for the most part. Okay. And yet again, we flame the thread ends. Okay. And we will do the same to the other side. So I'm just getting the, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm getting the other side. And if you wanted to, you could put a little piece of double stick tape under there so it didn't move. I just usually take it and hold it there while I move it over to my sewing machine, since I have the ruler on my bed of my sewing machine. And if you're wondering why I start at the bottom of the webbing, because basically when you're doing your crisscross, you're doing a double set of stitching across here, and since that's going to get more of the wear as far as picking up the thing, you want it to be able to last a little better, so 2 sets of stitching there doesn't hurt. So I don't take it through the machine more than I have to, as far as dragging all that vinyl through, so I turn it a lot, in case anybody's wondering. I get double stick tape from Wizardry Geeky Hardware. To me, I have found they have some of the best double stick tape. I can put it, and I've sewn through it, and I never have really a problem with it sticking, but it holds things in place really good. And they have 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch double stick tape. And I keep it in bulk here, so. And they have both permanent and water soluble, because I've used the water soluble for clothing. But another good place to get it is Walk Walk, which Kimberly already said that. I've not actually, and Lift and Warp has really good double stick tape too. But I will probably say I get mine mostly from Wizardry, which is also where I get most of my threads. And said, when you're doing this really pretty rainbow thread, and I've got other variegateds as well, and the quality has just been top notch, so I do a lot from there. Plus they have really awesome hardware as well. And that is what is nice about the Cube. You have minimal hardware. The Sweet Treat only difference in hardware is that you have rivets, because you need, yet again, more stability because it's going to be carrying more weight. Okay, so now we have the top now has its handle, and we're ready to put the bottom on, and then we'll be done. And since we don't top stitch the bottom once we attach it, your cube is then done. I will say, if you're using PVC, and even sometimes TPU, a good heat gun, a blow dryer. I actually have a heater, a stand heater right here that I use to warm up my vinyl before I turn it, so that it turns better. It just makes it more pliable. Yeah, Wizardry is awesome. Yeah, I have a variegated pink, I have a variegated black and white, I said some of the others. I have this really beautiful blue. That's one of my favorites. I have the rainbow I showed you. This is the one they call Fairy Floss, which is a pastel rainbow, which I go probably between the Fairy Floss and the Unicorn Mane, which is the darker rainbow. And they also have a Phoenix one, which has more of a red tone than a pink tone. I probably use that mostly in a lot of my bags. And just so you know, I don't get any affiliate or anything for Wizardry. I just really like their products. Alright, so now we are going to find where I put the bottom of my cube. So yet again, the bottom, just like the top, has rounded corners to go around. Yes, this is all Tex 45. I use their embroidery thread as well, the Tex 27. I know a lot that have more domestic machines use the Tex 35. Like I said, mine's a semi-industrial. I have lots of different ones. I have a blue that's blue, dark blue, and purple that they call their celebration thread. That's also one of my favorites. They have glow in the dark thread too. that's right. Okay. Alright, so I am matching up my centers again. Fun part of matching everything. And yet again, I am bringing out my trusty stapler. I said, you're not required to use stapler. I just do it because clear vinyl either likes to stick completely to itself or it likes to wiggle a lot. So I just find it's more secure for me to staple it. At least for those 4 points. Okay, where's my center? There it is. And make sure you make your points dark enough that you can actually find your center, especially on clear vinyl. I have the Haruka. I have Baby Lock EMP6 embroidery machine, and it uses the 27 for the embroidery thread. So I highly recommend their embroidery thread as well. I've had no problems with it whatsoever. It stitches beautifully. But I will say, if you want it to look a certain way, you need to definitely test what order things stitch, because sometimes it'll come in stitch in bands and sometimes it won't. So I would highly suggest so you get the look you want, test it on something to see how it stitches. Okay, so the bottom is all kind of clip staple. So yet again, I'm going to tell you, I will start from the back. And I say I always start from the back just to be uniform, I guess. You probably could start elsewhere. Now, it really does make a difference when you're sewing the top when you have the zipper tape. It probably does not make a difference for the bottom. But, like I said, probably habit on my part for that. Any other questions you want to ask while I'm going around the curve? And I said, just take and maneuver your thing around the corner. Don't be scared of bending it. Especially PVC is pretty durable. So, you're not really going to leave creases, or at least not that I've found. But I will hold that down and pull out the one around that curve, because you have that seam around that curve. So I will maneuver it a little bit at a time. And so you're still dealing with seams and stuff going around the curves. It's just not as difficult as with the zipper, because you don't have that extra bulk and you don't have the chance that you're going to hit your zipper tape and everything like that. And make sure you put that presser foot down. I have done that multiple times and have to go back and be like, oh boy, I've got a nice little bird's nest. This is when I bring in the little unicorn stiletto things to make it lay flat. And if anybody is really needing it, their Sweetly Unique Patterns is selling the templates for my Cool Cube. And they come with the, for the regular size, you just have to show proof of purchase of the pattern, and they are there. And I'll say I used the templates today to cut out this cube. So just go slow, take your time, so that everything wants to behave. That's the best way to put it. Don't let it frustrate you. Just take your time. And I call this pattern, maybe the clear is a little bit more on the intermediate side, but that's just more because of the type of materials you're using. I still call the regular Cool Cube a more adventurous beginner, novice, intermediate, because the hardest part of the cube, to me, of the regular cube, is the binding. And just making sure you read all the directions before you do it. And maybe the burrito roll when you're doing the body. Which, if you haven't done it yet, I'm not going to try to explain that right now because that might be a little difficult and make things confusing. We are going around that corner, so we are going a little bit slower. I always go a little slower around the corners. Make sure everything's laying flat. Or as flat as can be, given that this is vinyl. Sweetly Unique Patterns has the templates. And she's about to release a pencil case pattern tomorrow that is, ow, tons of fun to make. And I bought the templates for that as well. And yes, it is great for fussy cutting, because you can set it right on top of there. So we're on our last curve. And then we will be done. But yeah, it is, I love using the cube, especially for panels, whether they're woven or not. You can use it to make your panels and make them a feature part. I'll show you. Of course, now I can't reach it. So, as I said, it's great for panels. We are on our last curve. I love going around the curves. I said this is where sometimes having the TPU versus the PVC makes it easier because it's not as thick as PVC. Sometimes those corners want to be a pain. We have our last corner. As I said, PVC definitely is thicker, but like I said, it will have more stability as far as how squishy it is. All right. Okay, and you can check all your seams before you flip it out, and make sure you pull out your staples if you have staples. And you're going to trim your corners yet again, just to make sure everything is nice and uniform. I said, don't be worried if you have a little overhang. That's to be expected. I always have a little bit of overlap. Okay, and now I'll pull out staples. Once I figure out where I put my things. I will post a link to where you can get the templates after the end of the event, the live into the event. But it is also has there is the link for it in the main page as well. Okay. Everything looks good. Just have to flip it out. So right now I'm putting my bag in front of my little stand heater I have to loosen it up, and then I will show you how it looks. So as I said, PVC is a little more difficult to turn. Like I said, if you have a heat gun, if you have a hair dryer, anything that you can put heat on your corners when you turn them. It will make your life a little easier. Right. I know I'm not, I promise I haven't just disappeared. It takes a minute to get these turned right side out. Like I said, PVC has more stability, but it's a little bit more of a bear to turn without the heat. I will tell you, as a personal preference myself, I do actually prefer the PVC. Alright, we are going to zip it up together, and I will show you the finished product. Alright. Apologize for the sound of the heater. So we now have a finished clear cube. This is the regular size, and if you see the bottom, completely done. You can always roll your seams a little more. As you see, you can open it very easily, not getting stuck on any zipper tape, which is the whole reason why I say to top stitch. Are there any questions before I go? Since it's now almost 11 o'clock here. Once we got started. And there's a completed cube. Completely clear. All ready to be stuffed with whatever you're interested in. So, if you see, it is completely cube. I hope that helped everybody. I know it's just watching me sew, but do y'all still want more of these in the future? Thank you, Chrissy. Anytime. If y'all have a problem with something, if y'all need me to do a sweet treat at some point, I can. I said it's very similar to the construction of the cube. The big difference being that it's rectangular and that you have to add some more support all the way through with to help with weight. You have a more stabilizer in the sweet treat than you do the others. You have to use Peltex, at least if you want something to be able to carry any type of weight. Well, I look forward to seeing y'all's either the regular Cool Cube or the clear variety, hopefully soon in the group. I'd love to see what y'all come up with. Love seeing all the fancy stuff. And if you're curious, if you've never seen, so the Disney print is the regular size. This is the medium size, just so you can see the difference. And if you wanted to have them as for like travel cubes, which would work, because what's great about them when you're not using them, one fits inside the X and the small one will fit inside of the medium one. That's the difference. Well, it's getting to be close to my bedtime, so I am going to head out. Any other questions, you can comment in the event. You can comment in the main group, and I will respond to you in the morning, or when I get up. The morning here. So hopefully y'all enjoyed it.